before Churchill was a minister and in this room, even the first time, so before the beginning of the First World War, there was the first non-white male person elected to the British Parliament. He happened to be a Liberal, but it was back in the, not happened, of course, it was inevitable it would be a Liberal. That's what I really meant to say. But that was back in the 1880s. In the 1880s. And it has taken us to 2014 still to be in a position where the Parliament, the elected 650 of us, who are the Parliament of the UK, do not anything like represent, in ethnic terms, the makeup of the country on whose behalf Chris and Jonathan and Tim and I and others make decisions. That's the first one. When Churchill had just finished doing his job in the First World War, we saw the election of the first woman to Parliament at the end of the period just after the First World War. In fact, there's a quiz question as to who the first woman elected to the UK Parliament was. She was in fact a Sinn Féin member, elected for Dublin, who never took her seat because she wouldn't recognise the authority of the British Crown. She was also a Pole by marriage. She was called the Countess Markievicz. We still are absolutely a light year away from the majority of the British elected House of Parliament being women, and yet the majority of people in Britain are women. So in terms of reaching the parts that other generations haven't reached, you've got a job to do, good people. And we have a job to do, and Patchwork is about engaging with that job. So very simply, Martin, just three little messages. Firstly, and it was really good to hear the choir, and that was fantastic, thank you, outside. But it's really good also to see people who are not yet of voting age in the choir, like these two young women here. I always believe, I don't know what you girls think, but I always believe that it's really important that adults in public life speak not just to your parents, but to you. Because young people are just as interested and engaged and curious, really from a very young age. And I think we should begin the process of engagement at primary schools and at secondary schools and when we see people out and about, and not just talk to adults about politics. Because politics is about where the playground is, or is it a safe journey to school, or are the buses good enough, or is the teaching good enough, or do you get the opportunity to go and dance outside school hours? It's about all those things, as well as about having a peaceful world, so that little girls like you in other parts of the world have a chance of growing up and leading a fulfilled life. The second thing is that this year, for the rest of you, for everybody who's over 17 and 10 months, there are elections in May. I'm not here to tell you how to vote, but there are elections in May. For everybody in the UK, there are elections in May, because there are elections for the European Parliament. And for many people in England, there are two sorts of elections in May. There are elections for your local council. Every London borough, every place in Greater Manchester and Merseyside and West Yorkshire and South Yorkshire and Greater West Midlands, Tyne and Wear. And it's really, really important to engage in the process so that the elected people engage with all communities in the process of elections. But the last thing, Martin, is politics is not just, as you know better than anybody, only about election time. And that's what these awards are about. These awards are about the engagement all the year round, all the year round. And when John Leach won last year, and like Tim, I was very jealous because I thought, hang on, how's he winning? And people like us who slave away in the vineyard don't win. But when John and Chris and others won, it's about understanding that we have to be doing this engagement all the time. When there are elections in my patch, I represent about 80,000 electors, but a lot of them never vote, in spite of my best efforts. There are another 40,000 people in my area who are children, under 18, children and young people. There are another probably 25,000 who are not entitled to vote, but they have needs as well. They need to be involved in the process. If you're a Brazilian, or if you are a refugee from Somalia, you have as much need of the political process as if you were born here or if you're a member of the European Union. So I just want to reassure you that those of us in Parliament are going to be challenged by patchwork all the time to make sure we do reach out to the parts other politicians don't reach. But what I really want to say is that I hope that the next generation of people in local councils, London government, European Parliament and Parliament will be made up of lots of people like you, so that it will look like Britain, sound like Britain, feel like Britain, which will be a real tribute to the work of patchwork and political engagement. Thank you very much for being here. I hope you will celebrate this great diverse country we're part of and make it even more diverse and better.